How are you today, Morgan?
Great. How about yourself?
Good. Today I'm here with my friend Morgan Arbez. She is a CEO, grew and sold multiple businesses, a visionary, an athlete, a big inspiration to many like myself. Most of all, you are a good friend. Most of you don't know you because that's why you're here. I'd love to hear the backstory and your journey.
I like to hide behind the scenes, I suppose. Yeah. Thank you for pulling me out of them. So I'm Morgan. I'm the founder and CEO of Grit Distribution. This is business number 9 for me. I have been a serial entrepreneur my whole life, and it really just started with, I was 12 years old, and I realized that nutrition, as I knew it, was a problem. And I knew that because my parents, they were crash dieters. Every single diet fad that came out, they participated in, whether it was shakes, whole wheat diet, soy diet, it didn't matter. And at that point in time, I really started to forge my own journey. I dove into nutrition myself and started to learn as much as I possibly could and absorbed every ounce of information that you could at that point in time on the internet. And that was, I started cooking for myself, and athletics was a huge passion of mine my whole life. Fast forward to 18 years old, and I moved from Newfoundland, where I grew up, to Alberta. And this place is very vibrant with entrepreneurship. And I knew from a young age that I could not stay in Newfoundland because I found the opportunity to be very limited. So I get to Alberta and, my mind's racing and I see opportunity everywhere. And over the course of 2 years, it led me to be able to start an accounting firm. And I grew that accounting firm for quite some time and then sold it. And that was really my business, introduction, how I started everything. In amongst that, I had a gym. And then on top of the gym, we had a nutrition consulting company. Wow. And then a fitness competition business. And then it just continuously led to more. I didn't say no to much. And that, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but this brought me to where I am today. And so in 2016, having multiple fitness competitions in Canada, one of them being the 3rd largest in the world, I was struggling to get sponsors in that fitness space. And, Americans, they don't want to sponsor Canadian competitions because how do they get their product here? How do they develop the brand awareness within the country? And then everybody thinks that we live in an igloo here. And it's such a small population compared to the US, obviously, right? So that just led me to say, hey, I can solve that problem for you. You ship me your product, I'll handle all the distribution, I'll get your brand in front of people's faces, and we'll just take it from there. And so that's how Grit Distribution, my company now, came to be. And, ever since that point in time, I've sold all the other businesses that I had to solely focus on Grit Distribution and build it into what it is today. 2 years ago, my husband was able to quit his job and join me full-time in operating that business. And that has been our focus and our passion to where it is today. So yes, we focus on international businesses, but at the same time, we handle 3PL fulfillment, e-commerce fulfillment for local businesses as well.
Wow. There's so much to unpack. So I'm going to try to rewind that journey.
Yeah, please do.
My first question, why Alberta? Why'd you move here?
I knew from a young age that Newfoundland wasn't a place I wanted to be. It's an interesting place. It's beautiful. It's a great place to visit, but I needed to be somewhere where the amount of energy that I have could go somewhere. I needed to feel alive and that energy and be around other like-minded people who wanted to pursue something.
Right. You mentioned you had 9, you're on your 9th business now, was it? Mm-hmm. What was the first one?
Altitude Accounting.
Accounting. So that's how we met. So do you remember how we met?
I do.
People say, hey, does cold email or cold outreach work in, the business world? I said, absolutely. Yeah. One day I sent the email, or my team sent an email to your company and it's like, hey, can we print and design some business cards for you? And I got a response randomly out of all the people that we sent to. And here we are 10 years later on this podcast.
I remember
doing
you
a lot
coming
of work
to sit
together.
in the boardroom.
That's right.
Yeah.
You mentioned your fitness competitions. Was that Can West, was it? Mm-hmm. How did that start? And
how did that start?
Because that's a big endeavor.
Yeah. So we had the accounting firm and the gym. And then, with the gym, you could take your athletes to multiple competitions. And so there were other CrossFit competitions popping up around the country. So we went to one that was just a few hours from our home. And it just didn't it didn't reach its full potential. And, having the serial entrepreneur mindset, I'm like, okay, I can make this better. I know how to do this. And I've always truly enjoyed getting to see athletes express their truest potential. It's something that it just brings me alive. And so to create that, I felt was a really great privilege. And in our community, there was nothing. So the athletes in our gym, unless they were to travel a significant distance, had nowhere to go. And so I knew I could bring that alive. And, you know, the people involved in my life at the time, I just kind of said, let's do this. And we did. And so that's how that came to be. And so it started with the first ever competition, Fight of the Fittest in St. Albert. And then next thing you know, it grew into 4 other competitions in addition to that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're able to help athletes like realize their true potential, bring to the stage, and they had a medium to
Well, it brought the
right?
everyday athlete concept to life. And
Right.
that's what CrossFit's been able to really, truly do for the community as well. You know, you take being an athlete as this elusive term that only pro hockey players or pro whatever sport it is, players get to achieve. But then CrossFit has brought the ability for an everyday athlete to truly realize their potential as well, which I think is super monumental. And I think it's been able to really help a lot of people feel fulfilled in their everyday life.
That leads me to something else I wanted to unpack. So a lot of fitness, you started your journey in fitness as you were young too. How did you get started there? And you're an athlete now, you are an avid runner. How did you get started? Were you always an athlete in like elementary school, run track in junior high? Or is it something you kind of took later on and kind of made it part of your life? Or
You know, I grew up in a really small community. The town I grew up in was 400 people.
Oh, wow.
And there was not even a gas station. You had to go to the town that was, 20 kilometers away to get gas or groceries or something like that. But the town next to us, they have figure skating and martial arts.
Okay.
And so it was like, okay, I don't care what it is. I want to play it. And, I grew up you walked everywhere you had to go or got on a bike. And I've always been a very athletic person. And then my childhood, for me, there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of confusion. I felt lost and numb a lot of my life. And my way to deal with that was sports. It could have went any direction, but I chose sport as my outlet. And that's how, excelling in sport became to be my passion, really. Mm-hmm. It was somewhere where I was in full control of what I was capable of.
But you're a competitive person. It's not like a casual, like I'll go for a run, but you're like, you want to win.
Yeah. Has
that something
I've been able to relax that
been?
mentality as an athlete a little bit and translate it more to business in my older years. But yes, definitely that competitive mindset.
Right. Going to Grit Distribution, that's the company that you're running now. You kind of touched on how that came to life and so on. How did it get started? And maybe tell us a bit about that journey and how it came to where it's at today.
Yeah. So as I had mentioned, running the fitness competitions, I really needed sponsors. And when you're a for-profit company, getting sponsors is challenging. But then on top of that, when you're in a very niche space like CrossFit, getting sponsors is even more challenging. So the CrossFit, the companies that were in the CrossFit space were mostly American. So to get those companies to come here, I really had to solve those barriers for them. And any objection they had, I had to have a solution. So, hey, well, how are people going to get our product across the border? Okay, I can solve that. How are people going to know our product is even in Canada? Where are we going to warehouse it? All of those things, I can solve that. Obviously, with the competitions, our biggest event had 1,500 athletes, 500 volunteers, and 20,000 spectators. Okay, well, you can get your product in front of your core audience at that event. And then Canadians are always really excited when those brands are here because they want the same access as the rest of the world. So it was really, truly just about solving my own problem, which then became, a benefit to those businesses and then a benefit to the consumers. So that's how it came to be, for sure. And we started in a little tiny shoebox warehouse and then expanded into storage units where, let me tell you, -30, trying to get into those unheated storage units was not fun. And one day, I was actually writing the story this morning. My husband and I just decided, we were looking around one day and we were like, we have to move. There's no way we can continue like this. And so taking the leap to a bigger warehouse was, it was a really exciting undertaking. And
Was it scary too?
It was, no, it was just that inner feeling that I knew it was the right decision. It was the right decision. There was no other choice either in that moment. And so you just lean into that feeling and then the fear goes away.
Right. And it's really grown into something fantastic. I've been to your awesome retail storefront and warehouse.
Thank you.
Something I did want to mention though is the company slogan or motto, no bullshit, just hard work.
Yeah.
And it's something I love and I've embraced myself into, our business and everything we do. How did you come up with that?
Oh, you know what? That's my life. And my husband would echo the exact same words. He's the exact same as me. But for me, it's always just any, you just mentioned fear, any fear that I have, any self-doubt that I had, I can outwork it all. So it's just enough of the bullshit, stop with the nonsense meetings, stop with the nonsense excuses and just get to work. Mm-hmm. Hard work solves everything. And it exposes everything as well, so it can be fixed. So that's where that slogan came from. But also it's just in the word grit as a whole, passion plus perseverance over time, right? So when you just really focus on what grit means, you come back to no bullshit, just hard work.
Yeah, I love how you lead with that for everything.
100%.
And just going back to the company, what I really found or heard from you is there was a gap in the marketplace, and you found a way to bridge the gap and solve a problem, which then turned into the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that we are lucky to have the opportunity to work on, and we're working on it right now, is Project Grit. I'm super excited about it. Maybe you can tell me in your words,
You're the first person that we will ever speak about publicly regarding Project Grit. So nobody knows about this yet unless they're within our internal walls.
So let's tell the world.
Yes. So Project Grit is a product-based brand within the fitness and lifestyle space that is meant to fill a gap within the marketplace. So, going back to solving our own problems, getting the type of products that we want to have in Canada here is really challenging. But on top of that, having the customer support, the business support, the brand support is also really challenging. So we've gotten different businesses to come to Canada, yes, but then, still under the same notion that we live in igloos. They're like, okay, our product's there, cool. And then they don't want to have any additional support in Canada. So then, there's events popping up around the country. Well, they're not going to support those events. So how do you expect your brand to get out in the marketplace, et cetera? Like I could go on for hours about that. But so for us, it was, okay, well, we're going to have a product-based brand, yes. But on top of that, for us, it's about, okay, now we can support athletes. Now we can support ambassadors and influencers. We can support events. We can support our own customer service channel to be excellent, because that's a core focus of what we do when we operate any business is excellence over everything, and that comes back to no bullshit, right? Just focus on being excellent. You won't come in our warehouse and find a speck of dust on the floor. And so we're the same way.
That is true. I've been there. Yeah.
It's the same way when it comes to the product-based brand. Like it is going to be perfect from the beginning. And working on it, we don't settle. We just will never settle for something we're not happy with. And my husband has the highest standards of anybody I've ever met when it comes to products. So I can guarantee you they're going to be excellent. And then on top of that, yes, okay, it's really fun to have our own product-based brand that we can fully control the narrative. But for us, we really just want to teach the grit mentality to everybody. And that's, the product-based brand and grit distribution is just our way of being able to have an outlet to get to the world. But teaching the grit mentality is the most important to us.
Right. And that's a message that comes across with your products.
Yeah.
What type of products should we expected to see in the near future?
Really, really epic, high quality gym backpacks, duffel bags, travel duffel bags, cooler bags, and then general fitness accessories like grips, belts, knee sleeves, things like that. And some really epic apparel.
Yeah. I've seen it. It's going to look really, really good.
Yeah. So the apparel will start with different types of short sleeve, long sleeve, tank tops, and hoodies. That's where beanies, hats, things like that. That's where we're going to start.
But the brand is not just to sell more apparel or clothes. It's an outlet to give more value to athletes and your athletes, and to bring, bridge that gap once again and help support them in lots of ways.
Yeah, and a vessel to get the grit mentality out to the world.
Yeah, I like
100%.
that. 9 businesses down now. Looking back at your business career and life, and I think there's still so much more to go. What are some things that you have maybe would have changed? Maybe a decision or a fork in the road kind of thing. Is there anything you could look back and say, you know what, I might have did this one. I'm okay with how it is now, because you move forward, but I might have did this one differently.
My 9-year-old will always say to me, Mom, everything that you've gone through in your life or everything that you've endured has made you who you are today. And that's a person you never want to change. And my 9-year-old has the wisdom to say that to me. So yeah, you're right. I would never change any of it because it's all brought me to where I am today. But looking back, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, the 2 things that I have learned and taken with me along the way is to always, 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 always follow my gut intuition, because I have disregarded that voice so many times in my business career and in my life. And that led me to a cascade of health issues, and misery. And so when you don't live with integrity with yourself, everybody says they have integrity as a value, but they relate it to the outside world. I have integrity in our business relationship, but what about integrity to yourself? And if you have to abandon your own principles to please other people, that's a huge problem. And that's only going to cause a massive amount of problems in your life.
And you won't be happy with yourself about it.
You won't be. No,
Right.
You won't be. You have to face you at the end of the day. And so if you can't face the person that you are in the mirror because you're not happy and at peace with the decisions that you've made, and you're not in integrity with yourself, good luck. You won't be successful that way. So that's definitely one of the key lessons that I have learned throughout this whole career. And then, on a If you want to talk about a specific business example, brand first, brand over everything. Always. If you have a terrible brand, you will not sell an epic product. But if you have an excellent brand, even the worst products will sell. And that's something that I can tell you that throughout all of my business career, I've had some really great hits on branding and I've had some really huge misses on branding. And now, as you can attest to, our focus is brand over everything.
Right.
We want to get the brand right.
I get that question a lot in business as well. People are like, well, we need more sales. We need more sales. We need more sales. We don't care about the brand, or we do care about the brand, but sales are more important. But I always say both are important, but the long-term brand is important because people follow brand. We look at the biggest brands out there, Apple, even Starbucks, whatever they may be, they have a following.
Yeah, and Apple's a great example. Yeah. They're a great example because not only is it, my husband and I speak about this often, it's excellence where others can't see either, because we're like that. It's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I mean, if you were to spend time with us in our personal lives, there's nothing that we cut corners on. Even if it's as simple as putting the dishes away, we don't cut corners on anything. And sometimes it's exhausting, but it's that excellent attitude. And so Apple's like that. On the inside of their iPhone, where only an engineer, when they're taking apart the iPhone, can see, they'll have little inscriptions and everything is perfect. They will never cut corners in anything, right?
And people work with who they like, know, and trust, and having a good brand and follow. You follow a brand because you like, know, or trust them.
And they do what they say they're going to do.
As you will buy from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to do what you say you're going to do. And you have to build that loyalty. And building that brand right now is the centerpiece of everything that we're doing.
The first part you mentioned about, that gut feeling, I get that a lot myself as well too. So I feel like I want to do something, as an entrepreneur or as a leader in our workplace. But then I have a lot of other voices, whether it be my friends, coworkers, YouTube videos, or other things out there. And that starts throwing you off. You're like, should I do this? Is it the right move? You're hearing 5 other things and then you question yourself. But it always goes back to, just listening to your gut. And if you go do it, even if that's wrong, at least you knew that you did it the way you want to do it, and then learn from there.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a million different ways. That's just it. If you make a mistake, there's a million different ways that you've learned how not to do things.
Yeah.
And you will eventually find the one right way. But at the end of the day, and, for me, I want to make sure that I get to the end of my life and I truly live to my fullest potential, because it's just me against me at the end of the road. And that's why I say the competitive mindset changed for me over time. I can go into the gym now and I don't care what anybody else in that room's doing. I care what I'm doing and how I'm performing to my standard. And that's how I measure myself. That's how I check myself against my results all the time. Can I look at that person in the mirror and say that I'm honestly giving it my best effort?
Right.
And if I can, then nothing else matters. That's how you silence those outer voices.
I think that's amazing. How does one get to that? I know everyone says that's great, I want to do that. But it's so hard just to get to that mindset. Is it?
Well, I would say that it happens, and this is part of the grit mentality. I've built a very anti-fragile identity. So I've built an identity where it's okay. I've found a million different ways which won't work, and that's okay. But I know that if I keep enduring and I keep trying and I show up every single day, then I will eventually find the right way. And it's having the confidence to not give up on myself. And that came from, honestly, Eric, like I have made mistake after mistake after mistake and wrong turn after wrong turn, but I learned how to pivot and I learned how to say, okay, maybe I don't have those skills yet, but I will get them. And it's just being able to be radically honest with myself and building an identity that's not fragile. So for me, it doesn't matter what anybody outside of myself says, because I've built that integrity with myself that I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? They had that wrong. You actually gave that your best effort,
That's what counts.
And that's what counts. Yeah. And so for me, an anti-fragile identity, I don't get beaten down over time. I get stronger over time.
Right. I like that a lot. Entrepreneurship is one of the hardest paths for anybody. I don't recommend it to anybody. Why did you go down this path? I know it's like, did you ever have like a standard, day job or whatever the case is? And why would you choose in this life to go the hard way? And obviously your conversation is saying, hey, that's you, but I like to ask this question because sometimes I ask myself that question as well too. So
it's funny. I've said this to people before. If you ask me the question, everybody thinks being an entrepreneur is glamorous. You must have so much money. You must have a dream life, work
so
whenever you want.
And
so much time. It's like, if you aren't willing to do what I'm willing to do, then sit down. Mm-hmm. If you can't live the life that I live, then don't even start. And that life is, we get up at 3:00 in the morning. We go to bed at
You text me at 4 a.m.
often. Yeah. We get up at 3:30 in the morning and we're in bed 9:30 at night. And, we operate as optimally as possible. And we miss out on a lot. Like, we don't go to parties. We don't have an interest. We don't drink. We don't, there's a time and a place to unwind, sure, but we don't because we know where we're going and we know what it takes to get there. We miss out on a lot, and that's okay, but you have to be comfortable with that. There's a cost to be an entrepreneur, but it's not just a dollar's cost. It's a mental and emotional cost as well. And you have to be willing to pay the price. And that's a decision that you have to make within yourself. And so for me, again, going back to what I just said, my whole mission for myself in life is to get to the end of my life and not wonder what if. And the only way to get to that point for me is to dive into these opportunities that are extremely challenging and they're really hard, but it's the right kind of hard for me. For others, it might not be. The most challenging situation they might take on is getting up and going to the gym, because a lot of people have never been inside the four walls of a gym. So that might be the point that they're willing to push to, and that's okay. But for me, I needed to go beyond that. And I had a regular day job when I was in high school. I wanted to make enough money to go to Europe, but my family always had their own businesses.
Oh,
so,
right.
I grew up seeing that. I grew up seeing rental properties, bed and breakfast, restaurants, you name it. And so I saw that mindset from a very young age, which obviously helped. But yeah.
You don't get out of your comfort zone, you'll never know your potential.
You'll never know. And
Right.
that's terrifying to me.
What is some advice you'd have to a young entrepreneur, someone to look into switching their life or transitioning their life into this?
You just got to start. If you don't start, you're never going to get anywhere. You can sit and read all the books and listen to all the podcasts you think you need to. You can get all the degrees and accreditations you think you need, but at the end of the day, that is never going to be what gets you to move forward. Doing the work is what's going to get you to move forward. It's the no bullshit, just hard work mentality is what it is. Just stop with the books, stop with the podcasts,
Stop
and
with the
get
planning and
to work.
just do it.
And you know what? You will find a million ways that won't work. Perfect. They all take you the direction you need to go.
Some people spend months, years planning like a business plan to get things going when they could have just started and learned along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a waste of energy.
Shifting from business into fitness. I know you're an avid runner, you work out daily. How does someone get, in routine and get started in fitness? Any advice on that?
Yeah. So, especially for people who have never tried, it's setting micro goals that are very tangible. And that's what I would recommend to anybody. If you've never been inside of a gym before and you don't even own fitness clothes, that's where you start. So you start with week 1, you go out and you buy yourself 3 gym outfits. Week 2, you don't go to the gym. All you do is you sign up for a membership. You pick the gym. Week 3, you lay your clothes out 5 mornings in a row. You get up, your clothes are laid out, great, you move on with your day. And then week 4, you put your clothes on and you show up in the gym parking lot. Week 5, you go in for maybe it's 20 minutes, and it's something that's manageable and tangible within your head. If you're not somebody that likes running and you hate running, you don't start with running.
Right.
But if you really enjoy free weights, then great, that's where you start. So it's finding a program and a cadence that fits your schedule and isn't something that you dread. So it's again, like
There's so many options out there now too.
There is. It's micro tangible goals. It's just little things that set you up for success. Even if walking inside the gym doors and then turning around and going home is a monumental effort for you, and it's something that you can high five yourself for at the end of the day, start there.
Right. It's building those little habits and they compound over time.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Momentum will get you further than anything.
One of the things I like also, being around peers who also like, whether you join a club, a run club, or a gym, or a class, having people around you who are just as motivated as you also really helps.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. There's something that Derek and I, and you can attest to this, have spoken about often, is take the stairs. Even at Roger's place right here is a really great example. You walk in and there's the stairs and the escalator. Every single person goes for the escalator. They go for the easy way. Whereas, you can tell the outliers because they always go for the stairs. And so even just making those little changes in your life will lead you to so much more benefit. Take the stairs, park further away, stop being the person at Costco that needs to fight for the front row parking spots. Like, why? For what?
Yeah,
what does that benefit you?
It's interesting to kind of see that not only at the gym, but just traveling in airports. There's those escalators, those walk escalators. And sometimes I see people take that. And then some of these seniors, they decide to walk. They want to go for that walk.
Yeah.
And that person, has a different mindset.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, you'll never see my husband or I get on one of those escalators or rolling walkways.
Rolling walkways, yeah.
No, thank you.
You mentioned you get up, 3 a.m., 4 a.m.?
3 to 4 a.m. Yep.
What does a typical day look like, a breakdown of a schedule from that 3 a.m. till your day's end? I think a lot of people are wondering about that because most people don't wake up at 3, 4 a.m. In some cases, people go to bed at that time.
Yes. Actually, you're very right. We get up and my husband and I, we have coffee together every single morning. That's something that I really look forward to. And it's moments with him that I really cherish. We talk about our day. We talk about what our schedule looks like, what the kids' schedule looks like, and it's 15 to 20 minutes. We'll have a cup of coffee and then it's on our computers and we'll sit at our kitchen table on our computers for hours because that's something that it's a time for us that's very productive. We're able to really dive into that really intellectual work. And so
nobody's bothering you at that time.
And nobody's bothering us. The kids are all still sleeping. So we spend our time at the kitchen table and usually around 6 a.m. he has gone to the warehouse and that's where he spends his days. And for me, I will go work out in our garage or go to the CrossFit gym actually at that time. But oftentimes recently we've enjoyed the garage a little bit more. And then at 7:30 we get our kids up, drive them to school and then go to the warehouse. I'm at the warehouse by 9 and there until I pick my kids up from school at 3:30. And so in amongst that time at the warehouse, that's when I do all the meetings or the calls or the
busy work.
The busy work, the things that don't require so much intellectual attention. I find those to be really valuable times as well. And, staff meetings on the ground with the team, evaluating how the systems are working at the warehouse and, pivot there where we need to. So training people, whatever that looks like at that point in time. At 3:30, I grab my kids, we go home, and then I'll go for a run, a walk, round 2 in the garage, whatever that looks like for that day.
So 2 workouts a day.
Not always, but it just depends. Like I like to be in motion. And if my mind's really busy, then I do something, if the fitness is a way that I can shut those gears off for a little while. So if I need to shut off for a little while, then that's totally my outlet, but definitely at least a walk. For me, it's a minimum 10,000 steps a day. And that's just like non-negotiable for me. So I get out for a walk if I haven't gotten that volume in yet. I have
Even when it's minus 40 out?
Yeah, I have a walking pad at my desk though, so that helps. But so then at about 6 o'clock we have dinner as a family, and then online.
Is that a non-negotiable too?
For the most part, yeah, unless kids have sports of some sort, but for the most part, completely non-negotiable. Yeah, and we have dinner as a family, and then I would say at about 7 our day winds down. If there's any loose ends to tie up for work, we tie them up. But then it's whatever activity we're doing with the kids, whether that's reading to them, watching an Oilers game, and then planning for the next day, really. So
you plan a day in advance before
100%.
You get up in the morning, so you're ready to go.
Yeah, our daily lists are all planned out the day before, so we have our top priorities laid out and they're non-negotiables that are happening within the day. And then, we always have dead space within the day for any emergency situations that come up because every single day as an entrepreneur, you're putting out fires no matter what. You were just doing that and getting here. So, yeah. And then on Sundays, we do a major meal prep. So Sundays is probably about 6 hours in the kitchen where we cook, everything that we eat and we have everything ready for the week. So it's not one decision to eliminate the rest. So that decision for the rest of the week is gone.
Who cooks? Everyone? Or you? Derek? Everybody?
Me.
You?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I truly love it. I really love it. I'll do meetings, calls, whatever while I'm cooking as well, which really helps, but right. I love cooking.
I like that. You have like you just mentioned, you have a really busy family life, but Derek, who I'm also friends with, your spouse, partner, husband, is your business partner. That's not really easy, and some people say they can do it, some people can't. What has seemed to work? I think you guys have a really good formula of what's going on and what's working there.
We do.
What seems to make, is there something you practically do to make that work? Is it him being in the warehouse and you being at home, or how do you separate home life and business?
That's a very, very interesting question. And I'm really happy to talk about that actually. Oftentimes 2 type A personalities do not work well together, but him and I both he's the male version of me and we work very well together, but it comes from, our relationship is anti-fragile. It comes from radical honesty. It comes from not being afraid to be vulnerable and being yourself and just showing up every single day. So for me, I don't come to a partnership or relationship thinking, what can I get from him? For me, it's showing up, how can I contribute to him? And we've come to our relationship in that way. And I think that's been a really, really pinnacle aspect of why we've been so successful. And so for us with our relationship as well, there's been times of our life where we've not been apart for a minute for months. And we thrive in that. We don't need that space from each other. And it's just, I understand him extremely well. He understands me very, very well. We have grace for each other, but we also hold each other, we really hold each other accountable, but we do it in a healthy, really productive way. I don't ever judge him. He doesn't ever judge me. We feel really safe to be who we are. but at the same time, we know how to encourage each other to grow and evolve as well. And I think too, one of the reasons that we work so well together is we're both very, very growth oriented individuals. He doesn't ever hold me back from growing, and I don't ever hold him back. You know, I think that's definitely been one of the key formulas for success. He's not intimidated by my success and vice versa.
So it also sounds like you set strong family values ahead of time so that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are the kids just as motivated as you both?
I would, you know what? That's actually a really interesting point as well. We've definitely outlined values for our life, and it's how we operate in business and in our personal life and our relationship. They all translate together. So that also helps. All of our decisions, personally, professionally, are made in line with our values. So that's definitely a key aspect. And our kids, 100%. Our youngest, our 8-year-old, she is an incredible athlete. Our 9-year-old is a very intellectual, intelligent child who's got very strong political opinions of his own. Our 14-year-old, she has her own successful baking company. She's doing excellent at her age. And, you know, we're very, very proud of her for that. She's done a great job. And then our son, he's going into grade 12 and he's the starting quarterback for his senior football team, one of the best football schools in Canada. And he has high hopes of going to the US to play pro football as a quarterback. And you know what? He puts the work in every single day, no matter what. His whole life revolves around what it takes to become the starting quarterback for an NFL football team. And he's been like that since he was 8.
That's amazing.
He says no to parties. He says no to going out. He goes to CrossFit every day at 6 a.m. before school. Both our older kids do every day before school, 6 a.m. CrossFit.
And how many other kids in their class probably do that?
None.
Not many.
You know, they're wondering why, we recently had a birthday party for Derek. He just turned 47. And we said to the kids, you guys can invite a friend or something, like feel free. And they were like, no, we don't have anyone we want to invite, because it's, just like us as adults, it's certain rooms are very lonely for us. It's the same thing with kids with that type of mindset. When you have a specific type of mindset, it can be very lonely.
Right. What is one of the things that you have on your site I found is the 2% Club. Can you speak about the 2% Club?
It's that, it's not fitting in most of the rooms.
Right.
And it's the 2% Club, I would say, it's the club that does what it takes even when it sucks. It's my husband's up in the ice bath at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning every single day. And who does that?
And it's minus 25 out there.
Who does that?
You need an ice bath?
Who goes for a run when they're sore and they're tired and it's minus 40 out? Who does that? It's doing what it takes even when you don't want to. It's showing up even when it's hard. Even though some days your 7 out of 10 is different than your 10 out of 10, but the perceived effort's the same, It's showing up when it sucks. And that's what it takes.
Discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a word I like to say to myself.
Yeah. And that earns credibility with yourself, which earns confidence.
And I'll leave with this one just to wrap it up here. The quote that, we kind of fell upon together is, what does it mean to you? Like, I guess, self-made with grit. And that's something we're like really leading in with. What does that mean to you and the audience?
No one gave me anything. Everything that I have in my life, from the person that I've become today, from the business success that I've had, from the relationship Derek and I have, no one handed me anything. In fact, I was given a negative start. And I truly built everything that I have now myself. Of course I have support from my husband and things like that, but to get to where I am today took a radical mind shift myself that nobody could have done for me. It took doing things that were extremely hard that most people never have the courage to face. And it's unfortunate, but that's what it takes to get to where I am today. And that's why that word is so important to me.
It's amazing. Awesome. Well, I think we could carry this on forever, but I'll leave it here to wrap up. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.